Okay, so now when the D700 first came out, it was rivaling the Canon 5D Mark I in those days. And both of those cameras had 12 megapixels, but this one had a much better ISO. It could go much higher, but it could also handle the high noise really, really well. Canon have since come out with their Canon 5D Mark II, and pretty soon they're going to have the 5D Mark III coming out pretty soon as well. And this one will probably be replaced quite soon as well. But anyway, if you are no way brand orientated, as in if you don't care about Nikon or Canon, my advice to you would be go with the Canon. So if you don't already have a whole, thousands of pounds worth of lenses, go with the Canon because you've got the ability to do video. This doesn't. So this is purely just a photo camera, as it were. It's nothing about it for doing any video. It does have live view on the back, so if I click this button, you can now see what the sensor is seeing. Obviously I'm far too close with this lens, but yeah, roughly something like that. Can you see anything? Maybe something over there. But yeah, so you've got live view. You've also got a sensor cleaning function on this, which again the previous cameras didn't have, or the Nikon D3 didn't even have. So you've got sensor cleaning, you've got live view. I think the D3 had live view. It was about half the price of the D3 when it came out, and maybe about £800 more than the Nikon D300. Flash wise, it's got a pop-up flash, which is very important. A lot of people say, oh my god, what's a pop-up flash doing on a professional camera? I have used this so much. This works as the commander flash for using any off-camera flashes. You can always stick one of your SB800s, 700s, 900s on top of your camera and use this as commander. But if you want to have as many flashes affecting your model, as it were, then this little puppy can set these guys off from a fairly good distance. Like certainly if you're shooting in a studio, that will do all the flashes that you need because it will bounce off all the walls. So commander flash, brilliant, works really well with the Nikon flashes. The 12 megapixels nowadays is considered to be pretty 12 megapixels. Whew, that's rubbish. But there's this funny kind of thing which the larger the sensor you have and the less megapixels you have, somehow the ratings on some websites, it shows that your lenses get sharper. Something to do with the number of lines per millimeter or something like that. But if you have a alright lens on a 12 megapixel camera with a smaller sensor, that lens will be much better on a full frame sensor with a better, with the same number of resolution. It's a bit of a confusing thing to explain. But this camera, with its high ISO ability, and it's very easy to go into the high ISO, it's just a case of holding down the ISO button and you just scroll until you're at H2, and that is like 25,000 ISO. The Canon 5D, you have to go through like a whole bunch of menus. Well, certainly I did whenever I was using my friend's one a wee while ago. It wasn't easy just to scroll up to really high ISO above 6,000, I think. But again, do you really want to go above 6,000? Probably not. I would say leave that for the Nikon D3S or the future Nikon D4. So yeah, battery life, great. Sensor resolution regarding to your lenses. I've never at any point yet thought I need more resolution. The images which I do, like for example wedding shots, that one RAF, that was with my Fuji camera, which is actually only a 6 megapixel camera. I'm going to do a little review of the Fuji versus this in a wee while. But that image there on a 27-inch screen, I can't remember how big this is, 27-inch screen, that's a 6 megapixel image. It's huge, it's absolutely fine. For any kind of wedding album, I don't have many with me just now, you're not even going to have to worry with a 6 megapixel image. So 12 megapixel is double that, is absolutely fine. Going up to the 21 that you get in the 5D Mark II, I think it's 21, I don't really need that. I don't need that amount of resolution. I'm not doing billboards. What I am doing is weddings and albums and portraits and stuff like that. And the resolution I need there is absolutely fine in this. In fact, this is too much resolution. You know, I don't need that amount, but it's good for cropping in. If you're having to crop in with a 21 megapixel sensor, you could crop in more, yes. So yeah, that's really all the function is. But with the higher the resolution, the less sharp your images or your lenses become. So you've got to be a little careful with that. If you have a huge amount of resolution, but you have a really duff lens, it doesn't matter. So you've got to be buying yourself great lenses to really get the best out of your sensor. The other thing about this one is, compared to Canon, I can put my old school lenses on this. Not so much my old school, but my not my full frame lenses on this. So this is a full frame sensor, but I can put on the Nikon D10mm fisheye. So this lens here is a Nikon DX only lens. It's a Nikon 10.5mm f2.8 fisheye lens. Now for me to get a full frame fisheye lens, I would need to get the 16mm f2.8. Now that costs a heck of a lot more than this guy, but it also isn't that great. So if I'm now, let's go to live view, I've now got a fisheye effect. I've got fisheye coming through my full frame camera. What it's doing is that it's automatically cropping so that it's using just the central kind of area. Now, if I take out, there's a function in here where I can take that off. So there, if you can see here, I'll try and show you that a little bit better. So just now, although I've got a whole bunch of options on it, like the things, how do I get rid of them again? That's a whole bunch of menus. You can see the kind of vignette around the corners, but that's the kind of cool thing. I can still use it in here on this camera. I don't need to buy a new lens. So that was another one of those things that I thought, well, I don't need to buy new lenses just because I'm going onto a full frame camera. So, you know, I'm not going to sell my good lenses here. I'm working out 6 megapixels on a crop sensor, absolutely fine. Again, as you can see with the Fuji, no problem there whatsoever. The other thing about this is its focus is fast as anything, and it's got 51 points where it actually decides of where the focus is in the image. 51 points compared to, I think the Canon's got 12 or 9 or something like that. So this one, its number of focus points is really good. Its ability to track objects moving on the sensor is really good as well. So yeah, that's that. Fast frames a second, good ISO, no video, fast autofocus, can use old-fashioned lenses or DX only crop sensor thingamabobs, can shoot RAW and JPEG at the same time. It has vignette control, so it can decide how much vignetting is caused by the certain lens that you're using. Now the other thing is, with this and its flash, I have the ability to have an exposure compensation up to 5 stops. The Canon only has it up to 2 stops either way. So if I'm wanting a place to look really dark, I can just quickly dial in -5 stops of exposure, and on my flash I can dial up +5 stops of exposure, so that effectively the light hitting the model will be the correct exposure but the background will be totally black. That's one of the good things on this, which you can do kind of very, very easily just by holding that button and doing -5, as you can probably not see there. But yeah, or +5 as well. Yeah, I like that.